Hi, everybody. We're live. Welcome. Kuck, Baxter Immigration. This is Elizabeth Mathern joining you for immigration updates. I'll give you some updates on Build Back Better today, which I've been watching all morning. It was on the House floor for debate. Some interesting quotes coming out of that, signaling what Democrats think is going to happen. And some other run-of-the-mill immigration updates. You know, what's going on with work permits? There's all this litigation happening regarding work permits. I don't really have any updates on diversity visa lottery, but feel free to ask questions. Once again, if you are just joining us, my name is Elizabeth Mathern with Kuck, Baxter Immigration. I am the attorney down in our South Georgia office, which is about 37 miles from the Florida border. So we serve South Georgia and North Florida. Today, I'm going to give you updates on President Biden and the Democrats' Build Back Better plan, which is has been debated on the House floor today. I'll tell you everything I know from scouring Twitter, and I also have a degree in library science, so I've been using all of my sophisticated research skills to find out the very most accurate and up-to-date information for you on that bill. I even looked at the actual bill on the Congress's website. So, the history. What they're going over right now, I don't think we've actually seen a copy of. So anyway, I'll tell you everything I know, everything that is reported out there, and answer your questions, and then give you a few other updates. Feel free to post questions as we go. I'm more than happy to answer them as we go. This can be, you know, driven by y'all and your questions and what you want to know. You may ask questions that may relate to you, or may just be general that might help somebody else who's watching this or watching it later to better understand something that maybe is going on in their case or with their family. Or maybe somebody who has no familiarity with the immigration system and they're curious about it. Okay? All right, so let's get started. I've got a few questions posted here, and I apologize for the reflection on my glasses, but these eyes need glasses. All right, let's see what's happening with DACA. DACA is still both pending in the Fifth Circuit. You know, there was that case where a federal judge said that DACA maybe was a overreach by President Obama, and that and then it was like frozen. So the Biden administration attempted to codify DACA by putting it through the comments period, which I believe that comments period ends November 29th. So we're still waiting to see once that goes through and it's codified as, I think, a regulation would be the technical term, how that will play out. If USCIS will then be able to start processing those initial DACAs again. As many of you know, DACA renewals and advanced paroles are still processing. It's the initial DACAs for that last group of people that's, you know, either finally qualified or still qualified. Maybe they somehow didn't complete their filing or just missed timing with DACA. So all those initial filings are frozen right now, okay? There's no other updates on DACA as far as that's concerned. All right, let's see. Is it true that I can get my green card without leaving the country if my waiver has been approved? It depends on which waiver you're talking about. So there are a few different ways that somebody can get their green card. There's also a few different obstacles to getting your green card while you're here in the United States, okay? So what some attorneys may be talking about is if you've had a removal order or a voluntary departure and you didn't leave. If you've had a removal order and you got a 212 waiver approved, then in that case, you could potentially adjust here without leaving. There's a different type of waiver process called the 601A waiver. That's a stateside waiver program. And that is where you waive if you've entered without a visa and you were here over a year without status, you would trigger a 10-year bar because you have to go out to get your green card. And in that case, you still do need to process through consular processing. You just know ahead of time that your waiver's provisionally approved, meaning the officer could change the determination or find additional grounds of removability. So all that to be said, there's a lot of different types of waivers, and it's really important that we know what we're waiving, what type of waiver process, and if there is an ability to do that in the United States. For the stateside waiver program, the I-601A, most likely, no, you will have to leave in order to see through that process. There are other ways where you don't have to leave the U.S. With a granted waiver. You know, for example, a lot of people think if you didn't enter with inspection or you had multiple entries, there's nothing you can do if you don't qualify for certain waivers. But potentially something like a VAWA application could give you the ability to adjust your status without leaving the U.S. So highly complex area of the law, and your question is a little bit vague to be able to answer with a simple yes or no. So we would need more facts. If you are concerned about a waiver or traveling outside of the U.S., or maybe you're unsure about whether you're going to be subject to other grounds of inadmissibility and you want to have your case reviewed, feel free to make a consult with us. We'd be happy to look at it and let you know our perspective on whether you have to go out or not. Okay, thank you for the question, Roberto. Appreciate it. Let's see. All right, Jonathan, I'm not confident enough in my ability to speak Spanish, but I'm going to answer in English for you, okay? So you have your DACA, and you want to know if you can ask, I think, ask for permission to go to Mexico. I think you're talking about an advance parole, and yes, that may be possible. That may be possible. I don't know how strong, if it's just you have a business of like buying products from Mexico. I don't know. We'd have to look at it. We'd have to look at if we can find a way for that to qualify under the DACA advance parole. I think what I remember in the beginning of the advance parole, when DACA first came out, it needed to be like a business trip, like attending a conference or a different office site, like a satellite office of the company you work for. But it's been a long time since I looked at that. So yeah, I think make a consult. Let's see if we can do advance parole for you. Traveling while you have DACA right now with an advance parole is a great idea for anybody who has that ability. Now is the time to do that, because if you entered without inspection previously, you travel on DACA advance parole, you put yourself in presumably a different category of entering with an inspection, which if you marry a U.S. citizen, potentially you could adjust here without leaving. All right. Will the timeline on new EAD cards be looked at? Earlier this week, there was an article about EAD cards being processed more quickly. So thank you for bringing that up, Donovan. Let me pull up, we are working on a lawsuit with the Impact Litigation team regarding the processing of EADs. There was a settlement earlier, I guess it was last week, related to the processing of it was H and L dependents. There was long delays for those, and now this, according to the settlement agreement, those beneficiaries or dependents would be eligible to work and would not have to file for EADs. And then apparently that later later on in the day, last Friday, I think, got extended to e-visa dependents as well. Now, regarding EADs for adjustment of status applicants, and what was the other category? I can't remember off the top of my head, but we have a litigation called Kang versus DHS, where we are litigating the long delays of USCIS processing EAD applications. Here is the link for more information. I'm posting it in the comments right now. For more information on that lawsuit, if you're interested in seeing if you qualify to become a plaintiff, I think it's a good idea. Carlos, I just posted the link in the comment. Maybe refresh or give it a second to load. That link will take you to the landing page for the lawsuit team. It's got a frequently asked questions page that you can click on. It'll take you to, and you can kind of review and see if what's going on in your situation matches up with that lawsuit. As many of you know, if your work authorization renewal takes too long, you can lose your job. You can lose your driver's license, health insurance. The impacts are far-reaching and really catastrophic for people's lives. So especially, supporting oneself, but also supporting a family. It's very, very important that the government be held accountable for processing these applications in a timely manner with people relying on the work permit. And, they tried to sort of put a Band-Aid on things with the automatic extension on the receipt, but that doesn't apply to all categories. So it didn't really solve anything. Plus, the processing timelines have been even longer than that automatic extension. So it's quite a mess. So Donovan, I hope that answers your question. As far as I know, Donovan, you're asking about, does that include AP advanced parole for those of you who don't know? I don't think that this litigation includes the processing timelines for advanced parole. So, okay, Diego, I'm going to answer your question in English, okay? You want to ask about restrictions for residency to leave the U.S. and limited trips. Okay, so that's a great question. Whenever someone becomes a lawful permanent resident, there's always a whole list of things that they need to know. And one of those things that's very, very important for a lawful permanent resident to know is that you must maintain residency in the United States for 6 months minimum out of the year. So if you don't, and you don't ask ahead of time or have a really good reason, maybe you got stuck because of COVID or something, then you run the risk of the government saying that you abandon your residency. I did a Facebook Live on, like, I don't know, 3 or 5 ways to lose your lawful permanent resident status. And I talk in that video a great deal about this abandonment and sort of the steps that you would take and how you can come to the border or fly on a plane and be at the border in the airport, and that they, in theory, will admit you, but you may have to provide additional information about why you were out and basically fight to keep your green card if you stay outside of the U.S. for over 6 months. So you can prevent that by filing ahead of time. Let's say you're going to be on a foreign assignment, like your job is transferring you to an office overseas for a certain period of time. You can file notice with the government to let them know from, for 2 years, I'm going to be on this foreign assignment. You have your job letter, your assignment letter, and you state that it is not your intention to abandon your residency. You do that ahead of time with that letter. I think you're in much better shape than if you just willy-nilly stay out of the U.S. for 2 years and then call me and say, what do I do now? Try to be proactive about these things, because it's a lot easier to sort of lay a foundation and a groundwork, and we know what we're doing versus trying to like backpedal when we can't get in a time machine and go back and change sort of the approach we took. So great question. Thank you, Diego. Okay. Carlos, I'm just seeing, you know, again, that you posted, how do I join the lawsuit for the EAD? You should see that link in the comments by now. If you guys don't see that link, please let me know. I'll repost it. No problem at all. And these updates, including like this link to litigation, are things that we do share on our website and our newsletter. So if you're interested in getting, you know, these kind of updates in your inbox where you can read them in the privacy or quiet of your own home, over your morning coffee, or when you're, you know, relaxing, or even during your workday, sign up for our newsletter. You can do that through our website, or you can message me and I'll add you to the contacts list, okay? All right, so in addition to our group litigation on work authorization delays and currently onboarding, some other good news, just firm news, is that our managing partner and our senior partner were recognized by Law Dragon as 2 of the top 500 corporate immigration lawyers in the US. I don't know, I think that's pretty cool. We're super proud of them. They are brilliant and leaders in their field. So that was a great honor. And let's give them a round of applause for Mr. Kuck and Mr. Baxter for being recognized by Law Dragon. Okay, in other news, I already mentioned the EAD updates for H, L, and E visas. There was change in the DHS countries eligible for H-2A and H-2B visa programs. So I don't know if maybe you heard about that or didn't. The highlights are that pretty much all the countries are the same, except Moldova is no longer a designee, no longer eligible to process H-2A visas from that country because it no longer meets the regulatory standards, excuse me. And so the current program will remain in effect until January 18th of 2022. So just basically 2 more months, and then that's gone for those Moldovan nationals. Okay, a few countries were added to the program, which was nice to see. In the list of countries added was Bosnia-Herzegovina, Cyprus, Dominican Republic, that's only for H-2As, Haiti, Mauritius, and St. Lucia. So all of those except for DR were added to H-2A and H-2B. If you don't know what those are, H-2A is Temporary Agricultural Seasonal Worker Program, and the H-2B is Temporary Non-Agricultural Seasonal Worker Program. Okay, so that is the news there. Let's see, what else did I have? As many of you may know, there is a big push to get Afghan nationals processed through advanced parole, humanitarian parole. Other people that actually had pending filings, like special, well, people with filings like from immediate relatives or things like that, you know, actual petitions pending, and people who, it's a special immigrant program, but I just can't remember, like interpreters and things like that with pending applications. So there's been a big push to move those applications as fast as possible. We heard that, you know, a certain number of Department of State employees were being pulled off of other desks just to focus on the Afghan applications. Well, DHS, months after, you know, the emergency of it all, DHS has announced that there are going to be fee exemptions and streamlined processing for Afghan nationals resettling in the U.S. And it's supposed to help facilitate the process. So we'll see. That information on that can be found on the USCIS website. just look for information for Afghans on the USCIS website. You'll find more information about that. Okay. For those of you just joining, just want to let you know who I am and what we're talking about today. So my name is Elizabeth Mathern. I am with Kuck, Baxter Immigration. I am in our South Georgia office, which is in Adel, Georgia, halfway between Tifton and Valdosta. If you want to reach out to me and talk with me about your case, I'd love to do that with you. The number for our office in South Georgia is in the comments. It's 229-472-5775, and I'd be happy to meet with you regarding the specifics of your case. In the meantime, let's jump in, because I guess we only have like 10 minutes left. I haven't updated you on what I know about Build Back Better. So this is the scoop as far as I know it. Build Back Better allegedly includes an immigration component, which is also known as Plan C. This is allegedly a parole program, which would provide people who are here in the country without certain criminal convictions, a work permit and protection from deportation for a period of time. The rumor is 10 years. We don't know the cost. We don't know really any of that. It's allegedly in there. The House debated the bill this morning for 2 hours. Let's see, Representative J. Paul made some comments about, that this was going to be a historic bill, and that they were keeping their promise to protect Dreamers, TPS, essential workers, etc., protected. That kind of caused a little bit of a scuffle of people saying, like, why did she, because that sounded like Plan A. What did they put Plan A back in there? I don't think so. I think she was just kind of saying, like, those people that we promised we would protect, this will still protect them. It doesn't provide, from everything we can see, it does not provide a path to citizenship. It is not a residency program. I've seen right-wing publications and people on Twitter claiming that this would be an amnesty, claiming that it would provide permanent residency to however many million of people. There's no indications that that would be true. And in fact, Plan A and Plan B both had a residency component, and that was specifically what the parliamentarian pointed to as far as like a permanent life-changing event for so many people. So the removal of the residency aspect, I think, is what the Democrats are hoping. I mean, it's sort of like they're betting the entire farm on that being the reason why A and B were not approved by the parliamentarian, and why C will be approved by the parliamentarian. So they're kind of putting all their eggs in one basket, and it looks like this is going to go to a vote maybe today before 5 p.m., maybe tomorrow. It sounds like they're still waiting for information from the central, what is it, the business office, right, to do the accounting, to analyze the full cost of the bill, and allegedly have a vote in the House by the end of the week. What does that mean? That means next it would go to the Senate. The Senate has said that they will vote on it before Thanksgiving. So, or before Thanksgiving break, when they go on break for Thanksgiving. So I think that means by this time next week, which will be Thanksgiving, we should know whether or not it has passed the House. It may pass by a very slim margin. Senator Manchin sort of is throwing around, he doesn't know whether he's going to vote yes or no on it, but we're at a 1.75 trillion number on the package, down from 3.5, and he and Kirsten Sinema, Kristen, I think I'm I think I'm mixing her first name up with Gillibrand, but Cinema said that they wanted it to be about 1.75. So there, they got their number. So I anticipate it will pass, and I anticipate the parliamentarian will waive through the parole. That's just and like we've talked about before, I am an eternal optimist. So I like to live on the side of hope, and I think it's going to pass. So let's keep watching and keep waiting. And although it isn't what we hoped for, it will help a lot of people. Potentially a parole program will help a lot of people. So all right, let's see. We've got a few questions that have been added here while I've been talking about Build Back Better. If you have any questions about what I said, please let me know. And also, one more thing about Build Back Better. I think Biden said that he anticipated, I think he said earlier this week, he anticipated it would be signed into law within 1 week. So I don't know about that timing. Maybe it passed the House. Pass the House today or tomorrow, go to the Senate Monday, Tuesday. I don't know if it can then be on the president's desk by Wednesday. But it sure would be nice to have something before Thanksgiving for families to know that they have a little bit of potential peace and safety coming their way. So for the holidays. All right. So let's see. Myra, if you're in removal proceedings but have DACA, can you apply for advanced parole? That's a great question because, traveling while you're in removal proceedings could feel like a crazy big deal. But yeah, you can. I wonder, though, why are you in removal proceedings if you currently have DACA? It seems like that would potentially be something that you would qualify for, like prosecutorial discretion or some sort of temporary closure of your case. So I just, the only caveat I would say is, as long as your DACA is not in some sort of jeopardy. If that were the case, maybe because of a new criminal conviction or something like that, if that were the case, I wouldn't want you traveling. So before you file for advanced parole and travel on it, make sure that you're working with an immigration attorney to ferret out that strategy. But as far as being in removal proceedings, that's not necessarily a bar to travel. It does add risk, though. All right. So when will okay. Rayale Yusuf, that is kind of like a fortune teller question, like asking me to see into the future. I don't know when they will start. I hope it's really soon. It seems like it's been forever since the order in the Go case. I don't know what they're doing. It's just ridiculous. So stay tuned for updates. Believe me, as soon as we hear something about Go plaintiffs, you'll be the first to know, as long as you're keeping up with us on social media. And follow Mr. Kuck on Twitter, because that's another great place. If you're looking for DV updates, that's a great place to get them. Pretty much real time on Twitter for any of the litigation cases. Good afternoon, Mohammed. And same thing with DV 2020. I think we're still just in a waiting game just to see what's going to happen. I don't think there's anything in this. I haven't read anything in this Build Back Better that would assist the DV recipients or the people who won DV but were not processed because of the travel bans and the COVID closures. So I have no real answers for you. I wish I did. I wish I had something concrete to give you today, but unfortunately I don't. Just keep hanging on there and keep tuning in. All right, if a person entered illegally, so without inspection or without documentation, and is in removal proceedings, but has a clean record and married to a U.S. citizen with an I-130, is it better to request dismissal or administrative closure? Okay, Yashira, it depends. Like, I don't it doesn't necessarily matter. They're both closures that would enable you to move forward with potentially an adjustment before the consulate or USCIS. A dismissal means that they dismiss the underlying charging document. An administrative closure means that you are your case is temporarily set aside. It's not a complete dismissal. So, for example, if they wanted to bring you back to court, they would just file a motion to recalendar. If you had a dismissal granted, they would have to file a brand new notice to appear, alleging that you don't have status in the United States, go through the proper proceedings of noticing you, giving you a place and a time for a hearing, and all of that. So I might want a dismissal. I might find a dismissal to feel better, just because it's like kind of throwing out the case from its very beginning in a way. Whereas an administrative closure is sort of just setting it aside. A termination is another option, which is closing the case altogether. So it would have to be reopened if the government wanted to bring you back to proceedings or something like that. Reopened, or a new filing would have to be made, similar to a dismissal. So yeah, I don't know that there's really much difference in whether it creates a bar or not to adjustment, but it's kind of a hard question to answer in a vacuum. All right, let's see. Do you think that the Senate will pass Section 6002/3/4 along with the parole provisions? I don't know. Ramandeep, I don't know. You know, I almost feel like the Democrats sort of think that the parole thing is going to be a big enough blanket. Of course, it only affects people that are here in the United States by a certain date. They almost feel like they think they're perceiving it's a big enough blanket for them to say, we did something, like we did the best we could. We did like the maximum we could do, which feels not great for me, but it's, I mean, an honest assessment of what I see. So I hope that that's in there as well. There's no way for us to tell. I haven't heard any more details about that being included. And I didn't really look when I was skimming the congressional webpage with the bill. I didn't really look to see whether or not that was listed, and you know how they have the different edits. Okay, so I wish I had a better answer for that. So we're all going to be tuned to watching and seeing what happens with Build Back Better and the immigration portion of it. That's my time for today. I've enjoyed being with you. Thank you for everybody who hung out with me and asked questions. You guys had great questions today. If this was helpful for you, and you think it might be helpful for somebody else, please feel free to like and share the video. You know, I think it should be shareable to groups and all of that sort of stuff. So if you would like to share this information, please feel free. And if you'd like to meet with me to go over anything in your case, feel free to reach out. 229-472-5775. That's me in the South Georgia office. Although I'm in South Georgia and we serve South Georgia and North Florida, we take cases from everywhere. So feel free to reach out. Numbers also in the comments. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a really great weekend as we head into next week for Thanksgiving. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. And I don't think I'll be on next Thursday because of Thanksgiving, but we'll see how next week's schedule shakes out and see if I can join you next week. All right. Well, thank you. Take care.